Hey everybody, welcome. Little podcast update. So last night and this morning, Representative Luna, actually representative from here in Florida, she claimed that something big was coming out around 8 a.m. Some big UFO stuff dropping at 8 a.m. And for once, the MAGAs deliver. Instead of another nothing burger, we got something that's quite the opposite from a nothing burger. And it was really annoying and weird to see after the government released these shocking UFO files, which you guys can review for yourselves at war.gov/UFO. That's the address they settled on, not aliens.gov, which makes sense because aliens is not a department, whereas the Department of War, formerly the Department of Defense, has a lot of credibility. So again, war.gov/UFO if you want to check out the files for yourself. But minutes after they came out, some of these big influencers on X and TikTok were saying, oh, it's a nothing burger, don't even bother to look, we knew all this already. I wonder if that was like a cover-up attempt, right? If somebody paid these people, or if maybe they're just idiots, maybe they're just, the monkey in the zoo where you finally release the cage door and the monkey doesn't even want freedom, it just wants security, it wants what it's always known. These people saying this stuff is a nothing burger, look at it for yourselves. I mean, let me just read some of what has come out. So breaking news, FBI files reveal reports of, quote, 4-foot-tall beings emerging from UFOs. That's from the Daily News, as well as other outlets. And then let's go through some of the actual stuff. So classified transcripts now released from Apollo 12, reporting seeing a lot of UAP, a lot of unidentified aerial phenomena, taking off from the moon. So in one of these exchanges, an astronaut says that they're hauling off toward the stars, that he sees objects leaving the moon and hauling at great speed toward the stars. Now, absolute skeptics who will say this is already out there. Again, it's not. This is previously totally classified information that only today is seeing the light of day. So if you, quote unquote, already knew this, you must be one of the aliens yourself, or you must be one of the deep state generals who has abused the public for decades by keeping this stuff under wraps. But otherwise, you don't know what you're talking about because, again, it's brand new stuff. And previously classified transcripts between mission control in Houston and the astronauts on the moon. And skeptics who say, oh, those are just ice fragments. Okay, an ice fragment, it floats around in space. It doesn't zip off to the stars like it's kicking on a warp drive. And you would think experienced aviators and trained astronauts picked for moon missions would be able to differentiate between a piece of ice breaking off from their spacecraft, from their command module, and objects acting independently. And just so much of this stuff is absolutely mind-blowing. It would be a bad movie, right? If you have Nicolas Cage or Mel Gibson or somebody, or maybe Joaquin Phoenix, and they're a mid-level engineer at NASA or some defense contractor, and they find out it's all been a lie. From Roswell onward, there's been an attempt to make UFO witnesses out to be crazy people and to marginalize it. And within the government itself, you're basically not allowed to talk about it. And NASA clearly was running a cover-up, as were these satellite agencies, like the National Reconnaissance Office. These objects are showing up, so that means there's an active effort to censor them out before they release footage. So we got another thing, a quote, hollow cylinder was seen near the moon by Apollo 11 crew in 1969. And even the White House account has retweeted, or the White House account has posted some of this stuff today on X. So this is absolutely mind-blowing. Sightings of UFOs back during the Gemini program, which preceded Apollo. And what's so troubling about that, if you're a skeptic, is aside from ice fragments, there wasn't really much out there at that point. There wasn't much that had been put in space by various human space programs when Gemini was operating, again, the predecessor to Apollo. So what they were seeing, really advanced spacecraft type stuff. What is it? It wasn't the Russians. The Chinese didn't even have a program back then. So what is it? The Apollo 11 technical debriefing, where they report interference and again more UAP sightings. Then there's a NASA document that shows Apollo 11 lunar module pilot Alan Bean apparently describing strange flashes and particles sailing off into space and appearing to escape the moon. So again, the skeptics will say, well, under prolonged exposure to cosmic rays, the retina and the optical nerve can create flashes of light. Okay, fair enough. That's not what these, again, trained aviators and astronauts, that's not what they actually reported before it was covered up. That's not what they reported. They didn't report just random flashes of light that are indicative of temporary eye damage from cosmic rays. Instead, they reported distinct objects leaving the moon at great speed after they landed. And most famous of all now, that's gone viral over the last few hours, this haunting object, this haunting tri-point object, which now the White House has tweeted out. So a NASA photograph from Apollo 17 mission taken December 1972. The image contains 3 dots in a triangular formation in the lunar right quadrant of the lunar sky. I know some of you guys are saying, oh, Seaman, you're taking this too far. The 3 dots were probably just stars. But what I just read from is the White House Twitter account, the White House X account. And they posted this photo, which again, 3 dots, as if part of a single craft. So it seems like the Apollo 17 crew were being watched by someone or something, as if there were monkeys leaving the zoo, just being observed. And then Apollo 17 crew also reported seeing unidentified bright sparks that lit up space like, quote, the 4th of July. In their original debriefing report, they said the stuff they saw was so bright it looked like the 4th of July. Now that's not indicative of a little chunk of ice breaking off from the spaceship. Again, you'd think these expert aviators would know the difference between seeing something that looks like fireworks in space and mere, couple millimeter long pieces of ice reflecting the sun. So final piece I want to read, this is from the Interstellar UAP X account. Apollo 11 technical crew debriefing July 31st, 1969. Buzz Aldrin says, quote, we happened to see this one brighter object going by. Looked like a hollow cylinder. You could look right down in its guts, open book shape. It was really weird. It was really weird. Again, you'd think an astronaut that the program had chosen to go to the moon, somebody with clearly pretty strong psychology and a good mind, good head atop his shoulders, and he's blown away by a hollow cylinder that's essentially tailgating them on their way to the moon. And he describes it as really weird. So if that's just a piece of space debris, it wouldn't follow them. And if that's a fragment of ice, again, you would assume that even the most inexperienced astronaut would be able to differentiate those two things. So it says here, Apollo 11 was the 3rd crewed mission to the moon and the first to land astronauts on the lunar surface. This document is an excerpt from the Apollo 11 Technical Crew Debriefing, Volumes 1 and 2, from July 31st, 1969. The document highlights 3 observations. 1, an object on the way out to the moon. 2, flashes of light inside the cabin. And 3, a sighting on the return trip of a bright light tentatively assumed by the crew to be a laser. This is crazy stuff, folks. Yeah, this is like the premise of a bad movie. That they've been lying the whole time and massaging out, finessing out, censoring out the most key aspects of these moon missions, which is what they saw above the lunar surface. So, quote, the first unusual thing that we saw, and this is from Buzz Aldrin, the first unusual thing that we saw, I guess, was one day out or something pretty close to the moon. It had a sizable dimension to it, so we put the binocular on it. The crew speculated that it could have been the S4B stage of the Saturn V launch vehicle. The other observation that I made, this is still Buzz Aldrin reporting, accumulated gradually. I don't know whether I saw it the first night, but I'm sure I saw it the second night. I was trying to go to sleep with all the lights out. I observed what I thought were little flashes inside the cabin, spaced a couple of minutes apart. I observed what appeared to be a fairly bright light source, which we tentatively ascribed to a possible laser. So who or what was shining a laser into the eyes of the Apollo crew as they were approaching the moon, folks? And then way back again in the Gemini missions, there's stuff that's now been declassified. So astronaut Frank Borman reported a UFO during Gemini 7. Why is this not part of the historical record? This would appear to be the most important part of the space program in the 60s, and we're only finding out about it on May 8th, 2026. I'll leave this one here. Thank you guys for listening. And speaking of listening, I'm going to put a link at the top of this episode. It's a listener pulse check. We want to see if people are still listening or if I should just focus on our YouTube and TikTok. So the link will be there. It's our contact form. You don't have to log in or anything. All you have to do is go there. Leave a message for us. It could be anything. Your thoughts on the show. It can literally just be one word. It could be hello. Just so we can gauge how many people are getting these episodes. Because again, if it's not a lot of people, we'll just move over to the YouTube streams and the short TikTok uploads, because those are both doing well. And again, these black-pilled doomers, oh, we already knew all this stuff. If you knew all this stuff, you must be either a psychic or one of the aliens yourself, because this is all world historic, brand new stuff. Thank you guys.